Week 6 of theater school, and last week was last week was really the one where I felt like I'm starting to get into the rhythm of things here. So, whenever I get to a new place, it takes me a while to get acclimated to what I'm doing, right? Like it's hard to say that I can just jump in there and immediately be comfortable with everything going on because that's not realistic. That's not human. We take our time and we like to think things through, or at least I do. I'm the kind of person who likes to analyze situations and then get comfortable over time, and I feel like I'm finally getting there with school this week. Because while I had a lot of days where I really enjoyed myself and had a really fun time, in no small part, there were also a lot of times where I was feeling like, okay, this is today's thing. This is this week. This is what we're doing today. And I don't want to say anything felt standard or routine, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. I feel like I'm starting to fall into the routine of the school. And I think that's a positive thing because I think that I'll open up a lot more now because I have gotten into the routine and I've gotten to know people better and whatever else. So I'm really happy about that. In terms of big takeaways from the week, I don't know, really. I mean, I had a voice class that I really enjoyed because we got to talk about Jungian psychology, which I find to be fascinating. Our teacher was out this week, or at least one of our acting teachers was out this week, so we just had the one teacher for the entire week, which means that we worked on very different stuff compared to what we would normally do. We practiced a lot with energy levels, Labans, really a whole bunch of different ways of building and making characters, animal work as well. And yeah, that was the general gist of the week, I feel like. We were learning a lot about how to move our bodies and how to build characters without necessarily looking at text, which was actually a pretty cool lesson that our instructor gave us. So they told us about a story wherein they had a certain type of energy, like they enjoy using animal work to get into characters, and they essentially said, oh yeah, I was doing this one character for a while, but then I got into costume and realized, oh, I've got to change up how I'm playing this character entirely. And it's an interesting insight because a lot of time during the rehearsal process, at least so far, I haven't really felt like I need to drastically change what I've been doing with a character, but even hearing that, it got me to think about that a little bit more. And the entire process has basically, to bring up a relevant example for myself, the entire process has basically been teaching us a few different things like tactics and objectives, building character through movement, etc., etc. But normally what we will do is we will look at a scene and then we will, once every Thursday, we have our joint class, so both of our teachers come in, then we'll present a scene, and then we'll be done with it, and it'll just be shelved until further notice. But this week, because one of our two main teachers was sick, we didn't do that, and instead, we decided to work on our Thursday projects for a little bit longer, which I really appreciated, because it gave me an opportunity to try the scene again, and I think it's stronger for it. Right, me and my partner, the two of us were able to build a much better connection and relationship within the second scene, having been given some notes and seeing how we could improve it, rather than the one time where I think we did well when we were to actually present it, but, you can always improve in theater, and that much is invariably true. No matter how great something might be, there's always ways that you can do it differently. They might not necessarily be better, might not necessarily be worse, but you can always do something differently and try it from a new angle. And in doing so, I was able to find some new tactics, new characterization, new ways to play the person that I was playing. Initially, I was playing it as a very, meek would be the way to put it. I'm a very meek person, but then as time went on, I got more confident with the role, and I had a lot more energy behind the performance, and I think it was much stronger because of that. So I guess, if anything, what this week has taught me is that reevaluating where you're standing, reevaluating what you're doing is never really a bad thing. you need to be willing to look at what you're doing and ask if it's still working, because if it isn't, then you're going to run into some problems down the line. Trying to think if there's any other major takeaways that I can say for the week, but I don't know. I'm kind of nervous right now, to be honest, because next week we have something called talks, or midterm talks, which will actually be this coming Thursday. And midterm talks are essentially them going into detail with you about what your performance at the school has been like, because we're not really graded. It's more of a pass-fail type situation, and I don't necessarily think I've been doing poorly, but when you're presented with that kind of scenario, your mind is naturally going to jump to some pretty negative places overall. I think of the worst possible scenario rather than the best possible scenario, and that's freaking me out. But I think at the end of the day, no matter how the talks end up going, I'm just going to put in as much effort as I possibly can going forward, because if they say I'm doing fine, then great. I can still push harder. If they say that I need to push harder, well, then I really need to push harder. So I don't really know what I'm expecting, or more accurately, what I'm even wanting. Obviously, I want to keep going here, I want to continue developing my skills, and I want to keep learning, but at the end of the day, I don't want to become comfortable. Which is probably a bit weird, considering what I was saying at the start of it, where I'm finally feeling comfortable, so, very contradictory, but I think what I'm trying to say is I don't want to become comfortable in my situation as much as I want to become comfortable with the place itself and with the people I'm working with and the work that I am doing. So I don't want to be stagnant, I guess is a better way to put it. Anyway, I think that's the week in brief, so signing off.